It's time to get serious about your financial future. It's never too early, but it could be too late to get started. And that's oftentimes the hardest part, getting started. How much do I save? Where do I invest? Do I save for college or retirement? How much for each? And who do I talk to about it all? Okay, we'll keep things simple for now and help you answer the last one. We recommend you begin with a local financial advisor, and that's Jennifer Johnson of Three Magnolias Financial Advisors. She'll sit down with you for a complimentary introductory consultation and go over all of your questions. Get started on the path to achieving your financial goals. Visit threemagnoliasfinancialadvisors.com or call 336-701-1600. Get comfortable with your financial future. Three Magnolias Financial Advisors, retirement, financial planning, and investments. Securities offered through Private Client Services, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Three Magnolias Financial Advisors. Three Magnolias Financial Advisors and Private Client Services are not affiliated. Private Client Services is under separate ownership from any other named entity. Welcome to the Triad Golf Podcast. Here are your hosts, John Brasier and Jay Allred.
Hello and welcome to Triad Golf Podcast. This is John Brasier. I am the publisher of Triad Golf Magazine, triadgolf.com, and the Triad Golf Podcast. And my guest today is Alan Blondin, who is a longtime golf writer in Myrtle Beach and now works for On the Green Magazine in Myrtle Beach, which you can read online and find out all about what's going on in Myrtle Beach golf. And that's kind of the time of the season we're in right now is the big peak season in Myrtle Beach, and thought it'd be good to catch up with what's going on there. How are you doing, Alan?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you being here. And first of all, you've got a tournament coming on in a couple weeks in Myrtle Beach. PGA Tour's making its second trip to the Myrtle Beach Classic, which has a sponsor, I guess, an airplane sponsor. Is that correct?
Yeah, so One Flight International was added about 3 months ago, I think, is when they came on. And it should be a great addition. Honestly, the Chamber of Commerce is the entity that put up most of the money to get the tournament to come to Myrtle Beach in the first place. And of course, that's probably a limited engagement for them. With having to get the approval of its members and all every year. So they've got a 4-year contract, and One Flight International coming on probably gives the event more of a chance of longevity and continuing after the 4 years. And the owner of One Flight in interviews here in Myrtle Beach has expressed his desire to continue the event after the 4 years, hoping to possibly make it a standalone event, as it's a dual field event at the moment. And he's got some grandiose plans for the tournament that we can talk about a little bit.
Okay, well, let's do that. And first, I just want to thank our sponsors here at Triad Golf Magazine, Brian Donnelly Development, McConnell Golf, Lexington Golf Club, Jamestown Park Golf Course, Premierland Resort, and Reynolds Park Golf Course. They help sponsor us, bring this show to you, and also help with the magazine and our website, triadgolf.com. Alan, what's new in Myrtle Beach? This is the peak period, and it's kind of fun to have a tournament being played in the spring. I know the same thing's going on with the Heritage in Hilton Head as we talk. To be right in the peak season to have the PGA Tour come in.
Yeah. The golf courses try to be at their best this time of year, so it kind of makes sense in the middle of the season. And of course, the Dunes Club is it's almost entirely private now. It's become more and more private after COVID. Most private golf courses did real well with memberships, and Dunes Club was the same. So it's almost entirely private. They still have some outside play, but they do accept some very little outside play. It's mostly members only.
I have seen it on list, but it goes for more than $300. So it's a pretty expensive, pretty exclusive tee time. So yeah, you can play it, and I would say that it's still probably the gold standard in Myrtle Beach. It's the course that if people think of one course in Myrtle Beach, it's probably the Dunes Club.
Yeah, there might be a few, but the Dunes Club is for sure. It's been there since the 50s and well, actually, when was the Dunes Club built? 52,
40,
I think. 48. Yeah, 48.
yeah, yeah.
48. That's right. So yeah, it's been there as long as anyone except for Pine Lakes, and you might throw Caledonia in there based on the accolades that's received. But yeah, the Dunes Club is always one of the standards in Myrtle. And you mentioned the $300 price tag. I mean, yeah, they've basically taken advantage of being the host of a PGA Tour event to elevate their prestige and elevate their price along with it. So yeah, if you want to play the Dunes Club now, you're going to pay for it.
Yeah. Well, you might see some alligators, but you can see some alligators at some other courses down there. What else is anything else going on? Different news down there that you can tell us about?
Yeah, well, we can mention the one flight. We can talk a little bit about that PGA Tour event and what that sponsor might mean. So, first of all, the first order of business for the new owner, for the owner of One Flight, is to bring celebrities down to the pro-am on Wednesday, the primary pro-am on Wednesday. So he claims that he has committed Anthony Anderson, Kevin Costner, Kurt Russell, at least those guys and then there's supposedly some others as well, but they're all partners with him. They all fly with him, and he's supposedly leveraging that relationship to bring these guys to Myrtle. So supposedly on that Wednesday, which would be May 7th for that pro-am, a host of celebrities, including some A-list movie stars, are supposedly going to be playing at the Dunes Club in the pro-am with some amateurs.
I saw the latest list, and one person that I like, I don't know if everybody knows who he is. It's Rob Riggle, comedian who's been in a lot of movies. I think people might remember him from The Hangover. I know he was in that movie. So he's a former Marine and a pretty funny guy. He was added since the last list I had seen. But do you still have the social influencers playing?
Yeah, well, they did their Q. It's called the Q, the qualifier. So there were eight of the social influencers / creators that participated in the Q, along with eight what they say are aspiring PGA Tour players. A handful of them are juniors at the moment. So, but yeah, there was a group of 16. They all played in a qualifier on, I think it was March 3rd. And that will be televised on YouTube, the highlight show for that, and they'll expose the winner at that juncture, and that's on May 5th on YouTube. They're going to be it's the same thing they did last year. They got over 1 million views with that video. The Q actually won an award from the PGA Tour, basically for creativity, like a creativity award from the PGA Tour. So they were happy with it. They're happy with the amount of exposure it received, and so they came back with it this year, and we'll find out who advanced from that on May 5th, apparently.
Al, for people who might be headed to the beach either late spring or in the summer or maybe even in the fall, what was the winter like? Or the course, what kind of condition are the courses in compared to this time, other years? Prices up, business up, what's kind of going on with the industry there?
Yeah, so business wise, Myrtle Beach, pretty much like across the board in the US, COVID was a major boost to golf. And it was an activity people could do, and there were very few that were left that you could do. And of course, in the Carolinas, neither governor shut down golf for even a day. So golf was always available in both of the Carolinas, and Myrtle Beach benefited from that. Trying to think of the beach. So actually, it was kind of crazy. The beach was shut down in Myrtle Beach. You were not allowed to go to the beach because the beach was open, and then some people went to the beach, and the authorities thought that there were too many people congregating at the beach during COVID. So they closed the beach, but golf courses were always open. So that was
One funny thing we had here, golf courses were open here in the Triad as well. One golf course owner had a picture of like a gorilla or a monster, and he put a mask on him, as you drove by. So people had fun with COVID, and you had. I think for a while we had people. You had to ride in your own cart. Did they have that in Myrtle Beach?
Yeah, and of course that became a luxury. Like they made you, but then once they started putting you back with other people, you're like, oh man, this. I kind of enjoyed having my own cart, drive straight to your ball, play faster. But yeah. So Myrtle has benefited from all that, just like most of the country. But of course, being a golf mecca that it is, it's benefited a little more. So rounds, I write every year about. I do a comparison in January of the past year and how rounds work and compared to previous years. So you kind of have to. You kind of throw out the year 2000 because it's not really comparable to anything. So you look back at 2019 and move from there. So
2020 you throw out, right?
Well, 2020 is what I'm sorry. Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah. I don't think the other year. Yeah. It's a little past that now. But yeah, 2020 you throw out. So you look back at 2019. So 2021 was up, I think, double digits over 2019 percentage wise of rounds played in Myrtle Beach. And then 22, 23, 24 were all increases. 24 was a slightly less increase than the other years, but they were all significant increases. Price of golf has gone up. Price of lodging has gone up. Ooh. So you add the increased rounds and you add the increased pay and rates. So golf was thriving. It has for the last 4 or 5 years. Now, we have reports. I've spoken to some people in the industry, on the package side mainly. And I think rounds may be down. They're talking about maybe 8 to 10% in Myrtle this year. What's on the books, what's been played and what's on the books. So there was going to be at least a leveling out. And it might be at this point a regression a bit, based on, you can only thrive and continue to add percentages every year for so long. And at some point it has to level out. So I think 2025 might be the year things level out, and we'll see what the progression is from here on out. But golf courses, January was terrible as far as we had a snowstorm, 5 inches of snow, and
weather was terrible here too.
It was 30 degrees. So, they got off to a bad start as far as play, and obviously those conditions don't help future golf course conditions as they move forward. But most courses here overseed still. So there are reports of a few courses that are struggling with green conditions, but we have about 80, and 90 some odd % of those are all in good shape. So,
Alan, we've seen down in the Aiken area in South Carolina, they've built a couple courses, and I think they're basically private, and some of them at least are trying to go for a national membership. But Myrtle Beach went through a huge growth spurt from like the 60s all the way until 9/11. Is there any talk of a lot of courses have closed since 9/11 in Myrtle Beach? Is there any talk about anybody building anymore?
No, not really at all. And I've written about golf here for 30 years, so I've chronicled basically the closing of. We've lost. We're at about 40 golf courses that we've lost from the start of the 2000s. So basically, 2001, I think, was the first year we started losing. We still had, I think, 2001 we had about 8 courses open, and since 2001, we've had only 2 essentially open. It was maybe 3, I guess, if you count. So you've got Leopard's Chase in Ocean Isle in Sunset Beach at Ocean Ridge Plantation. That opened in, I think, around 06. The Members Club at Grand Dunes opened somewhere around 2008 or so. That's a private club, however. And the only other one that would have opened in that time is basically Seagull in Pawleys Island was rebuilt into what's now Founders Club at Pawleys Island. So you can consider that a new course. It was on an old golf course, but it was kind of a redo. So that's all that's open since 2001. And prior to that, we had, it's a stretch of about 25 straight years, I believe, is when we had a course opening, at least one for 25 straight years.
Yeah.
And some of those years it was 7 or 8. I mean, it was a crazy time, and really that the market got overbuilt. I mean, with all golf courses. So it's gone. At one point we got to about 120, and that's if you go all the way from Georgetown, South Carolina, up to about Southport, North Carolina, which, all of those can be considered part of the Grand Strand. We've lost about 40. There was a big, we lost 20 between 2005 and 2007 when there was a big housing boom. That's kind of what dictates when courses close, honestly, is when housing is doing well, that property now becomes valuable to a home builder. And those are the people that usually go after the golf courses and offer decent amount of money to buy them and close them and build residential and or commercial development. So that's, we're back into the housing being at a peak. And that's why we've again lost, we probably lost 6 or 7 courses, I'd say, over the last 4 years or so.
So if I'm going to come to Myrtle Beach on a weekend in the near future, is it going to be hard for me to get on a golf course? Am I going to have to pay top dollar? Or tell me about what you do. I mean, you put together packages for people as well.
Yeah. So I wrote for the Sun News newspaper for almost 30 years, 29 years. Once I left them, I took over On the Green magazine and made that a up-to-date daily Myrtle Beach golf news website. So there's always constantly new news that's being published on that. And the company that owns, the person who owns On the Green also owns a package company. So I also, as part of my duties, sell golf packages as well. Yeah. So, the spring is still what the spring is. It's, if you're trying to get a morning tee time in April, if you're lucky enough to find a tee time, it's going to be a peak price, and once you get through, and that's going to be similar in May, although the price will go down in May, but the times are still at a peak. You can still get times, but you may have to play early afternoon, or, those peak times are hard to get really through May. And then once June hits, we're back to golf courses are going to lower their prices. The tee times will be more available. The amount of people that have moved here and are moving here, though, has made, golf more of a year-round busy business.
The locals play during the off season.
Yeah. And there's way more locals here that play golf than there were 10 or 15 years ago, because there's just that many more people that keep moving here. As the golf courses close and they build residents, the people move in, and then they play the existing golf courses that are still here. So, it's all tied together, really.
Yeah, we've got a bad relationship going there. We're building more houses, we're getting more people and less golf courses.
Yeah,
We're creating some demand there.
Yeah, and the golf courses, the golf courses are all about that, because the ones that are still here, they're going to benefit from all that. So, but there is no talk. I have not heard a word about another golf course being built. Like it's, and if it were, I would assume it would be somewhere western Horry County. The land on the anywhere toward the ocean has just become a lot more cluttered and a lot more valuable, and it's unlikely somebody would take a prime piece of real estate at this point and build a golf course. If anybody builds one, I'm assuming it will be out toward the western part of the county.
Yeah. Brunswick County is by far the fastest growing county in North Carolina, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And you know how Wilmington has taken off. And between Wilmington and Myrtle Beach, there are several golf courses. And I don't know if there's any room. I'm sure there's room inland in Brunswick County. But, a lot of people here, actually, that's where they vacation, is Brunswick, which because it's, in state. So, it's crazy. And, I lived there in the 90s, and I thought it was getting crowded then. And, it's totally different. All the road, there are ways to get around. I'm still waiting for them to continue 31 all the way to Georgetown. I hope that's going to happen soon, Alan.
Because that, and it's supposed to continue farther north as well. That's part of the plan also. So,
Well, going south is pretty hard sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
so,
going anywhere in Myrtle Beach anymore. I've told this story many times, but when I first moved here in 1993 for the first 2 winters, 17 bypassed the main road north and south. 17 bypassed the main road that goes north and south, was blinking yellow lights for the first 2 winters that I lived here. So you could drive from Little River to Georgetown and never stop for about 4 or 5 months.
See, I tell people that there were maybe 2 or 3 lights between 501 and 17 and Restaurant Row for people who travel there. And now it's just like stoplight to stoplight.
Yeah. No,
it's pretty crowded.
It's unfortunate. It is what it is. I'm late for a lot of things now because
No, you're late?
I am. Yeah, believe it or not.
Later than normal. I was telling our producer, Adam, about the story about 20 or 30 years ago. You and I were playing at Arcadian Shores with some friends, and you were slightly late, and we're on the 3rd hole, and up comes your car, and you just pulled up, parked your car on the side of the road, and joined us. You're still the only person who's ever done that in a group with me, Al. Congratulations.
It's the best way to do it.
That's right.
You don't waste any time.
That's right. I think, and I guess we took you back, to your car, so it worked. It worked fine.
When the weather warms up, so does the real estate market. Sounds obvious, right? It's true. Spring typically means more home sales. But how will the current interest rates affect people's decisions? What about inventory? Is it high or low? And does that benefit the buyer or the seller? And how do those factors take into account a certain price point or area of the triad? Now it's not so obvious, is it? That's why you should turn to the Ginther Group to make sense of it all. You need someone you can rely on to assess your situation, read the data and trends, and point you in the right direction. Interest rates, inventory, even new construction. There are so many factors that impact our local market. And you should get your information from the folks right here in our backyard. Contact Blake Ginther and the Ginther Group today, 336-283-8689, or visit theginthergroup.com. Buying, selling, investing, or just learning, whatever you need, start now. And like me, you can become a Ginther Group client for life.
Springtime brings so many special occasions, so why not spring into Dewey's for all your celebration needs? From custom, unique cakes to balloons and party tableware to the perfect gift, Dewey's is your one-stop shop in the Triad. Even if you don't have a big event on the horizon, it's always a great day to stop by your local Dewey's Bakery, especially on Mondays for a free Cake Square Day. No purchase necessary and available all year round at any of their Triad area locations in Winston-Salem at Thruway Shopping Center and Renolda Manor, and in Greensboro at the Friendly Shopping Center. Need to place that order now? Visit local.deweys.com, and as a listener of the Triad Podcast Network, you'll receive 25% off by using the code PODCAST. Our friends at Dewey's are always finding great ways to give back to our local community, providing millions of dollars to nonprofits. Your organization can also partner with Dewey's to raise money. Just email cake@deweys.com to learn more. Don't miss the chance to make your event even more special with an order at local.deweys.com. Use the promo code PODCAST for 25% off. Dewey's. Celebrate every day.
Something else I was going to talk about with Myrtle Beach and all. Wes and George Bryan are Columbia natives. They went to the University of South Carolina. They played here at the Wyndham Championship, and they played in the tournament there in Myrtle Beach. And, Wes has been, he's a conditional member of the PGA Tour. He won in Hilton Head, in 2017. And he's conditional now, so he doesn't have a card, but he's very popular as a sponsor's exemption, I'm sure, because of his YouTube following and all that. He played in an LIV scramble exhibition a couple weeks ago, and last night, as we're talking now, he told people that he was suspended by the PGA Tour for taking part in that. And I'm kind of hoping that it's not for the year, because some people have speculated that past suspensions have been for a year, but hopefully, I guess he won't be in Myrtle Beach because Myrtle Beach is 2 weeks away. But it's we're not getting any closer to an agreement. It doesn't seem like between the PGA Tour and Yellow Heavy Tour.
Yeah, I mean, they claim that they're cooperating and in talks and this and that, but then these things happen, and it's clear that they're far apart and they're not friends. And
yeah, we're talking about a guy who has conditional status, and you could argue that he needs to make a buck where he can, which isn't really true because his YouTube channel is booming, and he and his brother have a golf course in Colombia that they opened. But I mean, for somebody else who's just struggling, getting in an event here and there, to say you can't play in an exhibition with a $250,000 purse, I don't know. I think that's pretty tough.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I guess the exhibition was officially a live exhibition. It's an exhibition anyway.
Yeah, but it's not right. Yeah,
it's fun.
He's the one who got suspended, but his brother actually won the event, playing with Sergio Garcia, which is kind of interesting. But
what's interesting too is that George, we mentioned that Q qualifier. So George played in the Q qualifier.
Yeah.
Now last year he played in it as well, and when he didn't win, he lost in a playoff actually. When he didn't win, the tournament offered him a sponsor exemption anyway because it's a dual field event, and anybody with a name that will bring any attention, you're going to want them to be in the tournament. So obviously both Bryan brothers played. They did a lot of media. They sat in the interview room together before the tournament. So, they were a big part of the promotion of the event and being from South Carolina and all. So I guess I'm wondering if George is not allowed to receive a sponsor exemption. I would have to assume he's not at this point.
Well, I don't know about George because George is not a member of the PGA Tour.
I know, but the tour may tell the Myrtle Beach event, hey, you can't give this guy a sponsor exemption. You just played in the live event. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I got you. I think it's different though. I think it's different though when you're technically affiliated with the PGA Tour, like Wes is, or it might be, than it would be for George, who's got no status at all. But I don't know.
I like I said, I understand that, but will the tour say, that you can't be giving live golfers if they consider that a live event and he played in it? You can't give live affiliated golfers spots in PGA Tour events.
Well, yeah, I guess we're going to hear about that in the next few days. What's going on with
that? Ask Darren Nelson, the tournament director. That'll be one of my questions next time I see him.
I'm sure he's looking forward to that.
Were you guys given a stipulation that you could or could not invite George Bryan based on him participating in that event?
Yeah. So, that's going to be good. What kind of field do you have? I guess your winner from last year went ahead and had a good season, and is he eligible to play in Charlotte? Or not Charlotte, in Philadelphia?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, Chris Gotterup, I believe he's eligible to play up there. So, obviously we get, what we get is they pick the top 70. The top 70 have the option to play up in Philadelphia for the $20 million purse, and Myrtle Beach has the $4 million purse that gets everyone else. So what we get, we'll get what we got last year. Obviously you get all the young guys that are trying to make it, that haven't yet achieved that status. Probably our biggest name last year ended up being, not at the time, but afterward, was Robert McIntyre, who had a good week here, and we, was in the media center a couple different times based on his play. He had a good week, and then he went on to win twice on the PGA Tour, play on the Ryder Cup team, European Ryder Cup team. He had an amazing end of his year and continuation into this year. So he's ranked in the top 20 in the world.
Didn't we see him up on the leaderboard for a while last week at Augusta?
Yeah. He was. He's been again. He's now eligible for everything there is, and he was in Myrtle last year. So it can be done. The people that come to Myrtle have a chance after this tournament to make a name for themselves in golf. And I think we're up to, I believe it's eight players that played in Myrtle Beach have since won on the PGA Tour.
Yeah. And just the whole tournament.
Yeah.
I think the whole tournament is a great idea. I mean, I've said this before, and I know I'm in the minority probably with hardcore golf PGA Tour fans, but I would rather go to Myrtle Beach and watch that tournament and play 5 rounds of golf myself than go to Charlotte. And,
Yeah.
in a regular year, they're not playing in Charlotte this year because, Charlotte Quail Hollow is going to host the PGA. But it seems like a great trip to watch a little golf, but play some as well and get some time in at the beach. I think I can see that tournament continuing, and maybe, hey, I remember the tournament organizers, and it might have been Darren Nelson, it might have been somebody else saying, who knows, maybe this grows into an event that has a larger purse, in the future. We'll see.
Well, like I said, the one flight owner has expressed an interest in trying to make it a standalone PGA Tour event.
That would be great. That would be great. Something I was going to mention, we've got, as we're talking right here, we've got the ACC women's tournament over at Sedgefield, which is the host of our tournament, the Wyndham Championship. And I was out there today, and beautiful day. I don't know what the weather's like there, but we've had some unseasonably, I don't know whether I'd say mild or cold or whatever, windy weather, but I was out there, and Macy Pate was out there, and she's out in the top 20. And so is Morgan Ketchum, as well as Emily Matthews. I just wanted to get that in, Al, because I was out there this morning, and it's just we were talking about weather before. What are the courses? What kind of, with the tough winter, did that have any effect on the golf courses at all for now? I mean, as far as coming back and grass or anything?
Yeah, like I said, there were I've heard reports of a few courses that maybe the overseed didn't come in as well. A couple different courses have some green issues, but overwhelmingly the reports are that the golf courses are in good shape. So a few years back there was a cold spell. This was in, I'm having to think, it was around 2018.
Yeah, we had that. We call it winter burn here.
Winter kill, yeah, we call it winter kill here. So there was winter kill. A lot of golf courses after that winter had to actually, there were a handful of courses that had to, a lot of them brought in tons of sod to replace damaged greens. Other ones had to close, replace the greens. So that basically spurred these golf course owners to buy green covers.
Right.
And those were heavily used this winter in January, especially. So courses would willingly shut down for 3 or 4 days when they knew a cold spell was coming, or when a snowstorm was coming, fill, and cover their greens, protect them basically from the weather. And then when it warmed up a little bit, they would pull the covers off. And so, the majority of golf courses have those now and use them readily and heavily this winter. So I think that probably played a big part in saving the conditions. If they just had them out there exposed and 20-something degree weather for 3 or 4 straight days, that could have, caused the real problem coming when the Bermuda was supposed to come back this spring. And
that's what I was going to say. If you got bent, and there's a few courses down there that still have bent.
3
right there.
Down to 3.
Okay. If you have bent, you don't have to do that, but yeah. So go ahead and tell us, what are the 3, Alan?
Man o' War, Wizard, and I think it's Crow Creek that still has bent.
Okay. Well, I asked because 30 or 40 years ago, that was, everybody thought they had to have bent so they can charge premium prices, because all the northern golfers wanted the bent. And now that they've gone through all these mini verties and they've gotten them where they can roll them really fast with Bermuda, it's, everybody's gone away from that except, a few places.
The proliferation of the ultra dwarf Bermuda grasses is what led everybody away from the bent. And then the summers continue to seem, with global warming, summers go hotter and hotter. So that bent really gets stressed out in, say, July and August, and sometimes it doesn't fully recover. So that's basically what spurred all these golf courses to switch over.
I think I mentioned this, Al, but we're here at Triad Golf Magazine, our print issue. We're going to be out, our first one of this, or our spring issue is going to be out in a couple of weeks. We're doing rankings. I've got a panel of people who are who are experts or, people who should know. We're going to rank golf courses. And I know you guys used to do that in Myrtle Beach all the time. And I'm hoping that it generates some interest around here. You guys, what do you remember doing that and all the fun that came with people putting in ballots and counting them up?
Yeah. Well, I did it a couple times. I would enlist basically a panel, maybe
Right.
25 people. Yeah. And, I guess the most popular thing we did was the Dream 18,
Right.
which is taking the best holes from every golf course in the market and having those, have them vote on what the best holes were and then putting that together. And then I recall, I think you might have taken part in this with me. We would try to go play the Dream 18.
Oh, yeah. And I did that. In fact, I was the one who did the first.
I think you left your club behind at one of the courses or something.
Probably.
Your wallet. It was your wallet. You left your wallet behind at Wild Wing. So we ended up losing time and we weren't able to finish before dark.
Now, I don't remember that, but I don't dispute it because that would be something that I would do. And when you said you left your wallet at one of the courses, you know what? I thought, well, my first thought was Tidewater because I left my wallet at Tidewater at least once. So there's probably multiple courses that where I left my wallet. I still go through about 10 different head covers a year from, taking them off and putting them in the basket and then leaving. But wallets and keys are the worst.
Yeah. You have to go back and get those. And I remember we had to circle back at one point, lost some time. And you're just getting even with me for that Arcadian Shore story. Okay. All right. Yeah, but no, it's true. I'm very absent-minded. I lose clubs. I lose wallets. I lose keys. I learned last year though. I have a Mazda, and I found out that you lose keys that cost you $1,200. So you don't want to do that. I do recall we attempted to do it in the winter too. That was a mistake. Yeah, that was a mistake. With the most daylight possible. So yeah.
Now that we're winding down and I've got some time, I just want to show you this. This is my trophy from the Heritage Press Tournament, since it's the Heritage. And I just wanted to brag with you about, reminisce about how you and I won some kind of crystal ball at the Dunes Club.
At the Dunes Club way back when, yeah.
My ex-wife stole mine, but you probably still have yours.
She stole it, or it was part of a settlement?
It wasn't part of the settlement. It just disappeared before I could find it.
I still have mine. I put flowers in it every once in a while.
Okay. Well, folks, if you're enjoying all this witty banter and stories, we're always looking for advertising at Triad Golf Magazine, triadgolf.com, and the Triad Golf Podcast. And Al, it's been great catching up with you. And I am going to Myrtle Beach next week, so I'm looking forward to it. It kind of made sense for me to give you a call, and you could tell us what's going on there. And it sounds like the Myrtle Beach Classic it's One Flight is the sponsor. Sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun, and go see Kevin Costner and Kurt Russell and Rob Reynolds.
They have a couple bands playing. Chairman of the board on Thursday, and Tyler, one half of Georgia Florida Line is also.
That's
Tyler.
Right. I remember. I've written about that on our line, and I just think what I would love to do, Alan, is come down there and see you dance to Chairman of the board at Fat Harold's. Mm-hmm. I just don't see you doing that, but maybe.
I have many dance moves and many genres of dancing, so
I'm not going to dare mention the name.
It's a possibility.
I'm not going to mention the name of the dance we're talking about because I'm sure we'll get sidetracked and I'll get in trouble. But anyway, it was good talk. I appreciate you coming on and talking about Myrtle Beach, and maybe I'll get to see you in the next couple of weeks. Alan, I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, John. Thanks for having me on.